Once upon a time, there lived a twin who lived in a small village situated at the tongue of a hill. Their names were Oluoma and Uloma. They were beautiful, gentle, and kind, and they loved themselves very much. They were also orphans because they lost their parents when they were still very young. When their parents died at a very tender age, they made a promise to themselves never to leave one another and will always love each other no matter what happens. They promised to face the challenges of life together and share in each other's joy and pains because they were twins and they loved each other very much. Many years passed. Olorma and Uloma grew up into beautiful ladies. Everyone in the village knew how much they loved each other and they were very happy together because their love was enough for themselves and their bonds were very strong. Aloma was fortunate to meet a fine young man one day on our way back from the stream. They started as friends and they eventually fell in love with each other. Their love journey began and they got married eventually, but their only problem was having a child. They had been married for over 5 years, but Oluoma was unable to conceive. She will always visit Ulama in the village and tell her how painful it is not to be able to have a child. Her husband was rich, so rich, and they had to move back to the city. However, Ulama has never stopped praying to God on her behalf to conceive. Ulama has many times asked Ulama to come live with them in the city, but she found it a little embarrassing. She didn't have any conviction to go live with her twin sister, as she didn't want her to be an intruder. The thought of her interfering in their private lives and invading or inconveniencing them didn't allow her. But her sister always visits her time to time and will bring her plenty of gifts and food items, and always tell her how she feels being married for years and unable to have a child of her own. She called her husband one day and told him of her plans, and the husband was surprised, but he just had to listen to it. She told him she wants to marry a sister off to her husband so she can get pregnant for them. The husband didn't consent to that, but she was convincing enough. That made the husband give in. She broke the news to her sister Uloma, but Uloma refused to eat. She cried and pleaded and had to remind her of their promise to each other to always stand by each other. She had no option but to accept it and marry Oluoma's husband. A few months into the marriage, Oluoma was pregnant and they were all very happy. Oluoma's husband treated her very nicely and took good care of her. Another few months after Oluoma was pregnant, Oluoma conceived and the husband's joy knew no bound. He was so happy, and Oluoma was also very happy for them. Her hatred for her sister began almost immediately when she got pregnant. She asked her sister to leave her house with her pregnancy, but the husband objected to it. She promised Oloma to make her life very miserable and leaving her. She told her she can only share everything with her, but not to her husband and her home. Ulama was always very sad because of the maltreatment and the hatred towards her from her sister. Her pregnancy was growing very fast. Oloma hated her sister Oloma so much that she had many times had the thoughts of poisoning her. Oloma would have given birth 3 months before Oloma's due date, but for some reason it didn't happen at that time. One afternoon, they happened to go into labor at the same time. While they were in the hospital at the labor room, Oloma made a promise and had a plan with a nurse. She called the nurse closer and whispered to her to inject a poison into her sister's baby that will kill the baby slowly when they had put to bed. As God will have it, Olama was lying helplessly groaning in pains, but overheard her whispering to the nurse to kill her baby when she had delivered. They both gave birth to beautiful baby girls. After they cleaned the babies and brought them back, The nurse was waiting for Uloma to fall to sleep so she can execute their plans. Uloma refused to sleep, knowing their plans. When the nurse left, she managed to get up and exchange the girls, while her twin sister, Uloma, was deep in sleep and went back to her bed, and then she was able to sleep peacefully. The nurse came as she thought, took the baby that was with Uloma and thought it was hers and injected some poison on her, and she left. Uloma, in her subconsciousness, heard everything she was doing, but she didn't move a muscle. When she left, Uloma then slept so happily and peacefully with so much joy in her heart. When it was time for them to leave the hospital, the doctor broke the news to them that Uloma's child was dead. Uloma's husband felt so much pain and so bad that he cried bitterly. Uloma had a pretentious tears flowing down her eyes as though she was really in pain. She allowed her sister Uloma took her child with her because she had a conviction that she will be vindicated one day and that karma will come knocking very soon. Uloma will always stand firm and watch her sister play with the child. She was in pain while the sister was still maltreating her. But Uloma refused to leave because of the baby. She will peep from far and watch her smile with the sister and how the sister was taking care of the baby. 2 years after, Uloma couldn't stand seeing her sister in her house anymore. She had to call the sister to leave. One day, she called her sister that morning and told her that she wants her to leave her house. Her husband asked the reason why. She's been trying all these years to love her sister, but she couldn't because she has so much hatred for her, she said. But her hatred for the sister kept growing every day, and there was nothing the man could do. Uloma didn't argue with her. She went into the room and packed her things and tried to take her daughter with her. But Uloma didn't give in to it. Uloma said to her boldly, I am ready to leave, but I am not leaving without my daughter, Uloma said confidently. Uloma thought she had started raving mad. What she said sounded strange to both her sister's ear and that of her husband. She tried to push her out of the house, but Uloma was fuming. And Uloma said she will never leave until she lives with her daughter. She stood her ground. I heard everything that day, she said to Uloma. How you promised to pay the nurse to inject my child and killed her the moment we both put to bed. But while you were sleeping, I swapped the babies. I replaced mine with yours and yours with mine. So the baby that the nurse killed was yours, and this one right here is mine. Oloma felt the world had already crumbled on her. She could feel the world crumbling on her feet, and she thought the ground would open up and swallow her. She couldn't believe it. Neither was her husband, as it sounded like a fairy tale to him. He asked if it was true. She was dumbstruck and dumbfounded at the same time. She was grieving, and she had this pain running through her chest. The husband was so disappointed and threw her out of the house. She began to beg for her sister's forgiveness and that of her husband. And her husband remembered how the doctor told them she will never be able to conceive again, as that child was more like a miracle to them. The world came crashing on Oluoma. She was sent back to the village empty-handed, with no child, no husband, and no sister. She lived in the village alone, and no one associated with her, as everyone heard what she did to her sister and that of her child, how evil she had become with her loving sister. Everyone deserted her. She couldn't take the pain and the loneliness. She was left with no option than to commit suicide. Oluoma committed suicide and she died lonely in her heart. Her husband married Oluoma again and she bared him another child. Their lives was as peaceful as more than before. They lived happily ever after. What do you learn from this story? Learn to love and learn to share no matter what. I will await your comment to tell and hear what you learned from the story. Please don't forget to share, subscribe, and then like. Thank you very much as we await another story. Thanks.